I obviously think VR gaming is very cool. I wouldn't have dedicated thousands of hours and 6 years of my life to creating this channel and uploading 3 to 4 VR videos each and every week if I didn't believe that. But I also believe that VR can be and should be much more than just the gaming sector. Now, one area in which I think VR is massively underutilized is experiences like this. More serious experiences, more educational experiences, and experiences that allow people like me to place themselves into a period of time or a historic moment that they otherwise wouldn't be able to or shouldn't be able to visit. Now, this game right here is Crave. It's a pretty damn realistic and authentic spelunking or cave exploring experience. I've covered it on the channel before, and I had a really good time with it. Now, today's video is a little bit more serious because Crave has a tourist mode, and within that tourist mode, there is the option and the ability to explore the infamous Nutty Putty Cave in Utah County. Now, this cave is infamous because a man lost his life trying to explore it. John Edward Jones died here in 2009 when he took a wrong turn at this point here. He thought he was travelling into the part of the cave that's referred to as the birth canal, but instead took a turn left and went into Ed's Push. Now, I'll explain it a little bit more when I get there, but it basically resulted in John becoming lodged at an almost 90-degree angle. He was basically vertical, upside down, and couldn't maneuver back because he'd maneuvered himself into a dead end. A team of rescuers had to come in here and try to get John out. They operated for around 27 hours, but couldn't successfully remove John from the caves. John sadly passed away in the cave. They sealed the area, which is now his final resting place, and they sealed the entire cave for the public and cavers to ever visit again. So you can no longer come and explore the Nutty Putty. It's sealed off. I think rightly so. I'm not a caver, but I completely understand why they would close this cave system off. But there were petitions and kind of a little bit of fighting back against the decision to close the cave from some cavers who thought it should still be available to the public or visitable by the public, or cavers, experienced cavers. Just leave, obviously, this section closed off. But I do think closing the whole thing off is the right choice. Now, as someone with no caving experience whatsoever, I took a school kind of field trip when I was very young, and I went and did, I think it's called the cheese press, is the kind of squeeze I put myself through in a cave. I can't remember where it was. It was in the UK. It was either Cheddar Gorge or somewhere in Cornwall. I'm not 100% sure. I'll put something on the screen. But that's my only experience with caving. I went into a cave, and then at the end of it, I had to push myself through, I think it is called the cheese press, which is a really kind of tight passageway. And I kind of had to go sideways with my helmet on and pull myself through. And that was pretty harrowing. I wouldn't say that I am a claustrophobic person, but being in here, in Crave, and jumping into this cave, the Nutty Putty, or any of the caves recreated here in Crave, it creates a sense of dread that I kind of didn't realise I had when it comes to tight spaces and claustrophobia. So I think this game has certainly unlocked some feelings within me, and reading about John Jones' incident, an accident, and the first-hand account of Brandon Kowalis, who also narrates this experience. Reading that kind of made me feel a certain way. It kind of, again, filled me with dread. It's not a situation that I would ever want any human being to find themselves in, and I can't quite comprehend it. It's a heavy topic. It really is a heavy topic, and I don't think this is going to be for everyone, but I do think there's a morbid curiosity within most humans, and we like to understand how these things happen. And from an educational point of view, for other cavers or aspiring cavers, I think the creation of this is fantastic, and acts as a really nice kind of time capsule and educational piece of tech for people who want to learn more about it and want to explore this cave system, despite the fact that they can't now because it is closed off. Right, let's get down here. So this is the big slide, this section I'm going through here. Again, I am not an expert, but this section here is called the big slide. In the game, if you just kind of let yourself go at the top, you, let me just tighten that up. If you let yourself go up where I've just come from, you can just kind of slide down it. It will just kind of take you, gravity will take you, and you end up down here. But I kind of went down more precariously than that. Now, Crave has a system in game whereby basically you hold the triggers on your touch controllers to take a deep breath, and that allows you to squeeze through some of the tighter spaces in the caves. But if you hold your breath for too long, you will inevitably pass out. We can't hold our breath forever. Okay, this is a dead end. I kind of want to make my way to the birth canal and to Ed's Push and just kind of, I guess, just give you an idea of the kind of harrowing situation that John found himself in and the rescuers found themselves in as they were trying to get John out. Now, I know they built some kind of pulley system to try and remove him that way, but just due to the nature of how he was lodged and the amount of room that he had, there just wasn't a way to move the human body back. I think if he'd been a smaller man, I think John was 200 and something pounds, potentially, but even then, he would have needed to maneuver in basically, we're talking inches. You know, the gap that he was stuck in was inches wide, inches thick. Terrible. I can't imagine kind of a worse way to go. To be honest, it's genuinely quite horrific, and I feel awful for his family and for himself. Honestly, it absolutely just bums me out talking about it and thinking about the situation he was in for 27 hours, before passing away. It really does bum me out. I was talking to my wife about it, and she was like, this is horrible. I don't want to hear about this. This is really nasty. It's really upsetting me. It is an upsetting thing. And, it's kind of a testament to Brandon, to the fact he's been able to come in and film these kind of tapes or record these tapes to kind of make this as educational as possible. If you find these tapes whilst you're exploring in-game, you get little bits of kind of commentary from Brandon, who was one of the first kind of responders who was there during that 27-hour window of trying to remove John from the cave. And it's really interesting to hear his account.
The corridor to the left leads to Ed's Push and the
that
story of what happened there. The corridor to the right takes you to the threshold of one of the cave's most famous sections.
So that's the
Its
birth
name
canal.
speaks for itself and has long been a magnet for many spelunkers
Look how tight that
who
is.
came here straight from the entrance.
Incredible.
I believe there's little point in describing it further. This is something you'll simply have to experience. See you on the other side.
See you on the other side. So I will put some links in the description for this video. I'll link you to kind of Brandon's kind of first-hand account of the events of the day, because it's really interesting to read. It is a harrowing read. It's quite a distressing read. I sat and read it at just gone midnight. Probably not the smartest thing to read before going to bed, but I enjoyed it in a enlightening kind of morbid way, I guess. So this corridor here is the route that John took, which took him into Ed's Push. The route he intended to take is this one here, which takes you into the birth canal and then into a series of kind of tight squeezes named after veins. There's like an aorta, and that's the kind of that was the documented way out. That was the correct route to take, but I would get lost in here. I think even experienced cavers, it's dark, it's claustrophobic. I understand making a wrong move. It's just so tragic that it cost him his life. Now, this is even in a video game recreation, actually horrifically tight. Right, let's pick up this tape.
We're approaching the site of John Jones' tragic accident. How did it happen? On November 24th, 2009, John Edward Jones became trapped in Nutty Putty Cave after entering a tight, uncharted passage that he mistakenly believed was part of the well-known birth canal route. Instead, he had crawled into an unmapped fissure that was far narrower than expected. The passage sloped downward and constricted as it went, forcing him headfirst into a nearly vertical section where his body became wedged. Entering headfirst made it nearly impossible for him to reverse or maneuver once he was stuck. Despite more than 24 hours of effort, rescuers were unable to free him, as the combination of the cave's fragile geology, the limits of physics, and human endurance made extraction impossible. In the aftermath, authorities made the difficult decision to leave his body where it was and permanently seal the cave, rather than risk more lives in a recovery attempt.
I think it's here. Yeah, okay, so this is kind of where everything went wrong. Final route and resting place of John Jones, who died tragically on November 25th, 2009. So John thought he was coming into a turnaround, so kind of a gap that would allow him to come in and either kind of reposition, turn and go back out the other way, or kind of continue downwards. But what he actually found was this kind of tight, almost 90-degree drop into a dead end. And even in, blimey, like honestly, it really is quite claustrophobic, even in a video game. Even in here, you can kind of see how that's problematic. If he's in there and his feet are, here, I can't wrap my head around any way that the human body would be able to come back on itself and back out of this little tunnel here. It was obviously an absolutely monumental and valiant effort by all the men and women involved to try and get John out of this gap. As I say, I know there was kind of a pulley system formed that didn't quite work. At one point they started using drills to try and widen the cave's kind of enclosure, the walls and the floor, but because it's so tight, because we're talking inches, there wasn't really the room to move the drill at the right angle to chip away correctly, so there was a lot of like sliding off of it. And yeah, as I say, they had to make the decision to leave his body there. I think he passed away after about 27 hours of being stuck there. His family were able to talk to him via radio. Oh, blimey, this is really tight here. But I think at that point he was kind of dipping in and out of consciousness, according to Brandon's first-hand report. It's incredibly tragic and it's incredibly sad. Like it really truly is. And I just think it's such an interesting use of VR to be able to put people into this situation and kind of give them a greater understanding of what happened, what went wrong, maybe what we can do in the future to avoid this kind of thing. I don't think you're ever going to be able to avoid this kind of thing entirely. People will always have that desire to kind of chase that thrill and explore, and I don't understand people who do this. It isn't in my nature, it's not something I would ever do, but that doesn't mean it's something that people shouldn't do. It just means it's something I don't want to do personally. I don't want to jump out of a plane, but there's plenty of people who want to do that. I think VR has so many cool applications like this. We've seen it with like a couple of Titanic games, kind of less tragic but kind of moon landing games or space exploration experiences. I think we should have more. I'm gonna squeeze into this birth canal now. You'll see how tight this is. Some of these sections are crazy in game. You actually have to kind of move your head to the side to get through them. Like here, it makes me feel like I'm compressed, even though I know I'm not. I have a slight cold as well, so that's not helping me with my breathing, I guess. But yeah, it's such a tight cave. I can't even begin to understand how you would start to plan to move through this. The first people who explored it, I can't wrap my head around that. The aorta crawl, that's what this is called. Here we go.
Even before Jones's death and the permanent closure of the cave, there were many cases of people getting lost here.
There we go.
With Boy Scouts being perhaps the most frequently rescued group over the years.
God, I can't even get through that.
Some veterans recall that the early explorations were much more wild, muddy, improvised, and with little preparation. In later years, rules,
Just-
managed
it's so-
access, and safety protocols were introduced to prevent accidents and protect the cave from littering.
But yeah, this is Nutty Putty. It's not a paid DLC or anything like that. It's a kind of a free add-on, a free part of Crave on the Quest, and I just think it's a really interesting use of VR. And I'd like to see more of it. I'm not saying it all needs to be necessarily as kind of tragic or kind of disturbing or morbid. This just happens to be a particularly sad case, but something that actually happened, and I think it's a good thing that it is kind of memorialised and kind of shown in this way. It's kind of educational. No one's making light of it. It's a thing that happened. It's a serious thing, and it's almost a cautionary tale. And it gives cavers who never got the opportunity to explore the charted routes of Nutty Putty a chance to do it in a safe way from, the comfort of their own home. Although I'm sure it isn't the same as doing it IRL, it is still very impressive, and I'm a big fan of what the team have built here with Crave. Hopefully you've enjoyed. I know it's not a particularly light-hearted video, but I've just been so fascinated with this particular incident over the last few days, and reading up about it and learning about John and Brandon and the team that kind of tried their hardest to remove him from the cave. And I think it's just a really interesting time capsule and educational piece of media that's been built here in Crave. And I think everyone should check it out if you've got the stomach for it. It is quite intense in here, even in the comfort of your own home. This is quite an intense one. If you suffer from claustrophobia, it might be worth not just diving in head first, because it is quite, even for me, and I don't think I'm particularly claustrophobic, it is quite distressing. Take care, everyone. See you soon for another one.